My name is Lexi Jong, and here I like to talk about luxury makeup. Today we are talking about the Pat McGrath blushes. And I picked up all 9 of the shades. So I actually picked up quite a bit of the collection. I also have the eyeshadow quad, the Divine Rose Tulip color, which I'm wearing now, and the highlighter, which I also have on. So I have a separate video with those items, so be sure to check that one out. And today we are talking specifically about the 9 blushes. So we've got cheek blushes, cheek swatches, arm swatches, comparisons. We're going to talk a little bit about the formula. And I also have a demo to show you how easy it is to kind of, either sheer it out or build it up. So let's go ahead and get started with a little bit of product information. The blushes come in a box like this. Got this, it's lavender this time, which, my favorite color. So I love this. This is made in Italy. It's 18-month shelf life. You have 0.34 ounces or 9.7 grams for each blush. And they retail for $38 US. If you purchase from her website, she has some set options that actually does bring down the price of these products as well. So this is the actual package inside. It's the same as the motherships and the Luxe Quads. So you've got the black plastic. One of the differences here is you actually do have a button to push in here. And you have a mirror on the top. And then this is the blush. So you've got a rose imprint, okay, with the little rays coming out. And this one here is the shade Cherish. So without further ado, let's start with some arm swatches. First up, we have Flirtatious. And this shade is the lightest. We're gonna swatch from lightest to darkest. Next up, we have Nymphette, which Flirtatious was a demi matte. This is a satin, so there's golden pearl in here, but you can see that it's not overwhelming at all, which was actually my concern. This shade is exclusive to the Pat McGrath website. Next, we have Divine Rose. This is another demi matte shade here. You can see that that is a true rose. So real quick. Next up is Nude Venus, which is another satin shade. So this one again has golden pearl. Desert Orchid, again this one is satin with golden pearl in there. And it's just those 3 that were the satin shades with the golden pearl. The rest of these are demi mattes. So this one here is Cherish. Next we have Love Struck, and you can see this one has a little bit more of a berry tone. Paradise Venus. And Electric Bloom. So let's go through these, starting from the top. We have Flirtatious here, which is going to be a soft dusty rose. And this one here is going to be a demi matte. Following that, we have Nymphette, which is going to be a satin shade with golden pearl. And you can see that this one it's a soft rose. Flirtatious has a little bit more of a nude slant to it, whereas Nymphette is a little bit cooler and pinker. And then we have Divine Rose, which is going to be a demi matte shade. And you can see that this is really going to be like a true rose, true tea rose kind of shade. Then we have Nude Venus, which is a peach. So this is a true like peachy nude shade. And again, this one is going to be a satin shade. So there is golden pearl in here. You can see when you look at these satin shades, which is 1, 2, and 3 here, that the golden pearl is not that obvious. You really need to kind of buff it into your skin before you really notice it. And then we have Desert Orchid here, which again, as I mentioned, is another one of the satin shades with golden pearl. This one definitely has more brown in it. It's more of a terracotta shade here, but it's a little bit more brown with a touch of orange in it than a true terracotta. Then we have Cherish, which is a demi matte. This is a true cool tone, bright pink shade. Definitely has a blue base to it. Following that, we have Love Struck, which is more of a pink berry shade, almost like a raspberry. And it's kind of like a raspberry and strawberry mixed together. Again, this one's gonna be demi matte. Next up, we have Paradise Venus, which is the true terracotta shade here. You can see Desert Orchid versus Paradise Venus. Paradise Venus has more red in it, but you can see that the red in it has a little bit of a rosy tint to it as well. So very pretty shade, very complex when you blend it out. You can see some brown, some red, some rose, a little bit of orange, some like golden tones in there. So it's actually a pretty complex shade. And last up, we have Electric Bloom, which is a bright coral. And again, it's another demi matte here. According to Pat McGrath, these blushes are feather light, long wearing rush of couture color in demi matte and satin finishes. There are ultra fine powder pigments that deliver sensuously soft, brilliantly blendable application. And with these, you can go from sheer to subversive, bare to bold to beyond. And that's kind of how she described these. I'm gonna go ahead and show you a quick little clip right now of application to show you how you can kind of get more of a sheer wash. And then at the end of this video, I have cheek swatches of all of these shades. And for the cheek swatches, the foundation base is the Chantecaille cushion in shade Aura. So I have that down with a very light dusting of the Sisley Fido Poudre Compact in #1 Rosy. So that'll be on my skin for each of these. And I used the soft cheek brush from Sonia G for all of those applications. Go in with 2 layers of blush. So you can really see, even just looking at one layer, if you look at, each brush stroke with the first dip of the blush, you can see how that pigmentation grows and how easy it is to go from sheer to really bold, bright colors, which is really going to help with a variety of skin tones. So I'm going to leave the cheek swatches to the very end of the video. So those of you who are interested in watching them, you can watch them at your leisure. And we're going to go ahead, show the clip now, talk a little bit about the formula and do some comparisons first. Thank you. All right, so I feel like in the cheek swatches, obviously I built them up so that you can see the color, but I wanted to show you how you can take something that looks so vibrant, this is the shade Cherish, and put it on much more softly. So I'm using the Chikuharu KZ4 brush and just tapped it on, and you can see, how much pigment comes up. And just gonna you can see how the bristles are barely kissing the cheek. And that's actually enough blush. I could wipe off the brush, then buff it out, and that's plenty for my skin tone. Or, you just continue to build it up. But you can see as I just go back and forth, even though I haven't picked up more pigment, it really is like dispersing and getting stronger in color. So for me, I'm going to go ahead and wipe this off. I've got a cloth on my lap, so just gonna wipe that and then just kind of blend this a little bit. Now, Pat McGrath, she has some application suggestions on her website, so feel free to check those out. But one of her recommendations is, you don't need, lost a brush hair. You don't need to set your foundation. So essentially when you put the blush on after putting on your foundation, it's going to kind of meld with it. So you don't need to use any setting powder. However, if you want to diffuse the color, you can either mix it with setting powder or put the setting powder on and then the blush. If you're not using setting powder, she actually says to set your foundation and your blush afterwards. So foundation, blush, then setting powder. So there are a couple of different methods there. And she has some, different suggestions for, getting the intensity up as well. So got a little bit for this side here. I'm just going to put that one on. And essentially, for the more subtle ones, she recommends just starting from your apple and brushing up. And again, you can build the intensity to your desire. And then to create a little bit more complexity, she recommends things like pairing two blushes or using a blush here and then another shade more for like contour and so forth. And then of course mixing with the highlight and so forth. So here is Cherish applied softly on me. So you can see that these blushes, you know, it's not hard to take them to a soft wash of color, and it's not hard to bring them up to truly vibrant shades. So I'm gonna back you out so you can see this from a distance. And again, I haven't done finishing powder or anything yet, but once I buff that in, it's gonna look a little bit more subdued than it is now. And yeah, I think it's really easy to work with this formula. So here is Cherish with some of the Guerlain meteorites kind of buffed on top, and you can see you get kind of this ethereal glow a little bit from the combination, and yet the blush itself is much more subdued and subtle on me. All right, so I hope you found that helpful. We're going to start off with some comparisons. We're going to start off by comparing the Chantecaille Philanthropy cheek shades. So this first shade here is Bliss, which is the butterfly shade. I'm going to put that up here with Flirtatious. You can see how much lighter Bliss is, and it's also going to be a little bit pinker. But on the cheeks, you can get a very similar feel for these. I mean, again, the Bliss is going to be a little bit cooler in tone than Flirtatious, but you can get the same level of color. The Chantecaille does not build up as much as Flirtatious. So if you've tried Bliss and it's too light for you, but you're interested in a shade like that, Flirtatious, you can actually build up to the color of this finger swatch. Okay, this one here is Grace, the Sea Turtle. And I'm going to put that one right here on the side so you can kind of see. These are all going to be soft blushes. So it's going to be color-wise a little bit closer to Nude Venus here, but it's not as pigmented and not as much of a melon shade either. Not quite as peach. Then we have Smitten, which actually is a peachier shade. So let's put that one right below it so you can see how that compares to Nude Venus. You can see that it's still going to be a little bit more orange. The tones are not going to be the same in these. Next, we have Joy. This is the brightest pink shade that Chantecaille has in this collection. And we're going to compare the tones with Cherish. You can see that they actually do have pretty similar tones. It's actually kind of in between Cherish and Starstruck. Is that what it's called? Starstruck, yeah. So it's kind of in between those for the Chantecaille shade. Okay, then we have Laughter, which is a coral shade. Let's put that here. And you can see that it's going to be much more subdued than Electric Bloom. Similar tones, but just not quite as bright or vibrant. And last up, we have Emotion, the B shade. I'm going to go back up here and put that, let's put that one right here and right by Nude Venus. Nope, it's still peachier than I expected. There we go. While we're testing Chantecaille, let's go to the Radiant Chic Cheek Duos. Chic Cheek Duos is what it's called. This first one is Rose. This is the Whale Shark. We're going to put that right here above Cherish. And you can see that it's going to be warmer in tone. And then this one is the Coral shade, which has the manta ray on it. We're going to compare that with Electric Bloom. You can see Electric Bloom has a little bit more of a reddish touch to it, but they're very close. Now, between those, I have to say that all of these Chantecaille shades go on much more sheerly. These Radiant Chic Cheek Duos, they actually take a little bit more effort to build up to get to these deeper shades, whereas the Pat McGrath, I mean, it's effortless to go that bold. So just something to note there that, you know, even in the finger swatches, even how similar these are, you're going to get a lot more pigmented color with the Pat McGrath than you will with the Chantecaille. It's much easier to get to this level. Now, before I wash my arm, let's just add a few more that I don't have a ton of. So this is the Wayne Goss Blush Peony Palette. So we have Sweetened in Shimmer Pink. So this one here is the blush shade Sweeten. We're going to put that right here between Cherish and Love Struck. And again, you can see that it's much more similar to the Chantecaille shade here. These are going to be warmer in tone. Let's try the Wayne Goss Vivid Azalea. So this shade here is called Shocking. And I think the tones are off, but let's see how, yeah, that very different from Starstruck, but that is going to be our closest shade to it. And let's take a look at the Sisley Lafido blushes. So this shade here is number 1, Pink Peony. And let's put that one up here. So yeah, it's too bubblegummy. Yeah, it's not cool enough for Cherish or Starstruck, but it's not going to be light enough for anything up here either. So that's Pink Peony. The next shade here is Rosy Fuchsia. This is going to go better with this Wayne Goss shade, so I'll just put that here. You can see it's warmer in tone. It's too strawberry compared to Cherish or Starstruck. Then we have Coral. I'll put that one down here. Let's put that right there. And this one is much more similar to Electric Bloom. So this one's Electric Bloom. This is the Chantecaille Manta Ray in Coral. So you can see that they are all fairly close. Next we have Golden Rose. I'm going to put that one up here. This one is actually one of the shades with Golden Pearl from Sisley. You can see that it's going to be a little bit pinker. Let's get a little bit more on there. Let's put it here as well so we can kind of see that. You can see that the Sisley Golden Rose, you see that gold shimmer a lot more. It's way more shimmery than the Pat McGrath ones with shimmer. The Pat McGrath surprisingly is much more subtle, but you can see that that shimmer shade is also, it's pinker. And then we have the Sisley in Rosewood, and let's put that one right here with Paradise Venus. You can see that it's actually kind of a mix of Starstruck and Paradise Venus together. And let's try it up here also. So this one here is Divine Rose. And you can see that the Rosewood is going to be a little bit deeper, a little bit more mauve-y than Divine Rose. But it's not quite a Paradise Venus either. So those are kind of your closest. I'm going to wash this off and re-swatch the Pat McGrath shades, and then we'll move on to some more comparisons. Okay, so we're going to be comparing some Surratt shadows now. So this first one here is La Vie en Rose, and we're going to compare this with, let's actually swatch that one. We'll go with Paradise Venus here, but yeah, it's too rosy. I think we also want to look at it up here near Divine Rose, where it's a little bit too mauvey. So here's Divine Rose and the Surratt shade, and Surratt, and this is Paradise Venus. So you can see that not quite as good of a match as I thought it might be with one of them. Let's take a look at Ponceau, and this is a bright coral shade. We're going to compare that with Electric Bloom. You can see that Ponceau is actually going to be a little bit more vibrant. It's a little bit more of a bright pink in there. This one is Tumefae Rougier, and it's kind of a brighter cool tone pink. We're going to put that one right here. Yeah, it doesn't really, well, let's put it down here and see how it does with Cherish. Get a little bit more. All right, so that's going to be closest to Cherish there. That's actually a pretty good match for Cherish. Next, we have Peau de Pêche. I'm going to put that right here by Nude Venus. This one's Nude Venus. Peau de Pêche is going to be a little bit more orange. And let's try Parfait over here as well. So Parfait's a little bit lighter. Nope, it's a little bit more like a softer peachy coral. Okay, here is Cherubique, and you can see that Cherubique is going to be a little bit of a shimmery shade. This one over here, we got Nude Venus, and then this is Desert Orchid. We're going to put that right there, see how that goes. And then let's take it down here and look at Paradise Venus as well. It's a little bit more rosy. Doesn't quite match with either of them, but yet it's still relatively close. Now let's take a look at Hermes. So this is number 19, Rose Apricot. And let's see, let's put that one, I think Nude Venus will probably be the closest. So let's add that right here. It's the Hermes, you can see it's going to be more orange. All right, here is Rose Tan, and I want to see Rose Tan right here. This one is Desert Orchid. I think that's going to be the closest, but you can see that Desert Tan has a little bit more yellow in it. It's a little warmer. It's also a little bit softer in shade. This one here is Rose Blush. And again, this one, it's not really going to go with any of these, I don't think. So let's go ahead and we'll just stick it here so we can kind of see. But yeah, it's too orange for the Electric Bloom, and yet it's too bright and vibrant for Nude Venus or any of those. We have Rose Plume. We're going to put that one right up here at the top. And you can see it's softer and a little bit pinker here than either Flirtatious, or this one here is Nymphette. So it's not quite a match for either of them, but it's kind of close. And then we have Rose Feu. I'm going to put that one right here, and this one is Paradise Venus and Rose Feu. I think they're a pretty close match. Rose Feu is a little bit more red. There's a little bit more of that brick red tone to it. And the Paradise Venus has a little bit more of a richer chocolate mix per se in there. So I think they're the closest though. Here is Rose Nuit. We'll put that one right here. It's going to be warmer in tone than Cherish or Starstruck. Let's see how it goes with Divine Rose up at the top here. So here's Divine Rose. You can see Divine Rose is going to be a little bit cooler, but they are fairly similar. Aside from the undertones being a little different there, they are fairly close. And then this one here is Rose Pommette. And I think that one's going to be closest up here. This one is Nymphette, Divine Rose. This is Rose Pommette from Hermes. I think that's going to be kind of our closest area. It's too warm in tone for either Starstruck or Cherish. So I think it's kind of like a little bit cooler than, not cooler. It's a little bit cooler than Nymphette and a little bit warmer than Divine Rose. But yeah, that's the closest match for those. All right, and then let's take a look at some Chanel blushes. This is one of the new ones in Rose Ruben. We're going to compare that right here between Cherish and Starstruck. And you can see that it's going to be a little bit warmer, but it's pretty darn close to Starstruck. This one here is Rose Bronze. We're going to put this up here at the top with Flirtatious. Doesn't quite go. It's going to have a little bit more reddish tones in there, but it doesn't look like it's going to go with any of the others. Also with Flirtatious, this is Jersey. This is one of the old formula ones. And yeah, you can see that it's going to be a lot more brown than Flirtatious. This one here is Alizane, which we're going to compare that one with Desert Orchid, which is this shade right here. But let me just swatch it on its own first and see. You know what? Maybe not. Let's try that down here with Paradise Venus. Put that right here. No, I don't think it's going to be a good match for any of those. This one here is Fuchsia Rose. I'm going to take that down here. This is Electric Bloom. Okay, so you can see that it's not going to be, it's the closest, but it's much more red than Electric Bloom is. Then we have Pink Explosion. We're going to compare that right here with Cherish. And Pink Explosion is slightly warmer, but they are very, very close. So they're slightly more of a purpley tone, a little bit more of a blue base to Cherish in the Pat McGrath than Pink Explosion in Chanel, but they're really close. And then this is the Chanel Fleur de Printemps Duo. We're going to look at just this side here. And we're going to compare that with Electric Bloom right here. I think they're pretty close, but there's still a little bit more orange in the Chanel compared to the Pat McGrath, but I think those are really close. And we're going to go ahead, I'm going to share with you the cheek swatches now. And with the cheek swatches, I have a base of the Chantecaille Cushion Foundation in Aura on, and it's very lightly set with a very loose dusting of, or very light dusting of the Sisley Phyto Poutre Compact in shade number 1, Rosy. So I have that on. I use the Sonia G soft cheek brush to apply each of the shades. And you can see, looking at the application, that just from one brush stroke, pay attention to how each brush stroke builds the color without having to re-dip the brush. So I can actually get super pigmented color with just a tiny bit of product. It kind of just spreads out and disperses on your skin, and the color just kind of intensifies as you buff it into your skin. So you can see from the cheek swatches how deep you can get with just 2 dips into the application. So all of the cheek swatches, that's there to kind of show you how intense the colors can get as well. If you're looking for a sheer application, look at how it builds. Look at kind of the starting point from that. And I hope that's helpful. So overall, my thoughts on this formula, I really like these Pat McGrath blushes. I think they're going to suit a wide variety of skin tones. I'm pleasantly surprised that the three with Golden Pearl, which again, we have Nymphette, Desert Orchid, and Nude Venus. Those are the satin shades that have the Golden Pearl infused in them. You don't really see that too much until you start buffing it into your skin, but it's still pretty subdued. It's way more subdued than I expected for Pat McGrath products. And I like that. So overall, I think the blushes are fantastic. They blend out very nicely. You know, if you go in with too much product on your brush and you start kind of tapping it on your cheek and you're not blending, yeah, you know, that might not be the best idea. But if you're going in and you're softly sweeping, or if you're patting but you're making sure you cover all your bases and you don't have too much product on your brush, you can get a sheer light wash of color that, you know, is beautifully blended. So I think it's a great product. I'm very happy with these shades, and I do have a ton of comparisons that I want to share with you for this. So the comparisons, there are quite a few. So I'm going to put those in a separate video. So those of you who are interested in the comparisons, you can watch that. Otherwise, this is pretty much my thoughts on all of this and the swatches. I think they're great. I think they're a very nice value. They are comparable to a lot of the other blushes that have been coming out. To me, formula-wise, they are most comparable to the new Hermes blushes. These are way cheaper than the Hermes blushes. So I definitely think that they are, you know, a really nice product. I really enjoy them. And again, if you're interested in purchasing from her site, she does have quite a few varieties of sets. She has some where you can choose your own blushes for like a set of 3, or like some mix and match sets where maybe you get to choose one blush, or you get some other items in there. You can get all of the blushes like I did, and you do get some cost savings through her sets. So, and I have actually had really great customer service from her. We'll talk about that more in another video, but my customer service experience recently has been great. And I think that they are really trying to turn things around, at least here in the US. I don't know what it's like from other countries, but here in the US, they've been very responsive, very fast, and you know, they've done a fantastic job. So I do think that they are trying to kind of change their image and some of the negative press that has been around their customer service. So that sums everything up for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you very soon.